Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we were in Esther chapters 1 through 4, and tomorrow we're going to be in Esther chapters 5 through 10. So there's going to be this continuity through the next couple of days read instead of jumping around like we normally do. But today starts off with a big question. What is the purpose for you being in the position that you are in? The position you're currently serving in, whether you're a rookie police officer, whether you're a field training officer, SWAT officer, criminal investigator, whether you're a sergeant, lieutenant, whatever the case may be, in your law enforcement job, what's the purpose of you being in your position? Think about it for a minute. And think about it while we're going through this, because at the end of this, well, you'll see why. So, Esther chapter 1. There's a lot of speculation that this king of Babylon that Esther gets involved with is Artaxerxes again. There's also a lot of compelling reasons why people think it's not Artaxerxes. So there's arguments back and forth. So I didn't want to spend any time in those arguments because it really doesn't matter what this king's name is. He was the ruler, and that's what we need to know. But in chapter 1 verse 8, he makes we start reading the story of King I can't even say his name, and Vashti, who is his queen, and how they're just in the first couple of years of his reign, he decides to throw this party that lasts, I don't know, it's almost like 6 months. And you've got to think a king has got a lot of work to do. Being a king is not easy. I mean, you're the authority. You've got to make decisions. There are things going on that need your attention. And to just throw a 6-month party seems a little irresponsible. Don't know all the details. He may have taken a day off here or there to actually do some work. Don't know. But he puts this kind of a mandate in place for all the people that have come to party with him for 6 months. And he just tells them, hey, do whatever you desire to do. There's no real rules or law here. Just get drunk and do what you desire to do. So then we see in chapter 1, verse 13, that he called the queen in, and he wants her to be eye candy. He wants to show off her beauty to the other guys that are there. Well, they're all drunk, and he's told them you can do whatever your heart desires, and when they see a beautiful woman, you can kind of understand why she said, no, I'm not coming over there. I don't feel safe, maybe. Anyway, so in verse 13, he kind of goes back on this, do whatever you desire, because she desired not to come see those guys. So now all of a sudden, it's, well, don't do whatever you desire. You're not doing what I've asked you to do, so I'm going to go consult the people who are over the law and justice and see what they say I should do about this. So right there, all this together makes this king look like a terrible leader and a terrible king, which would almost make you think it's not Artaxerxes, because he didn't seem to be like the aloof king type. He was very much a leader and a warrior, and he was absent a lot because he was out conquering the world. We see this king over a 12-year period. Seems like he's always around. So chapter 2, verse 23, we see Mordecai come on the scene, and he hears about this plot to assassinate the king. He tells Esther, and they quickly squash it. It's investigated, and they investigate it and find that it is truly going to happen, and they stop it. But that'll come back later. Then in chapter 3, verse 10, we start seeing Haman. And Haman hates Mordecai, and Mordecai's a Jew, so he doesn't want to just punish Mordecai. He wants to really hurt Mordecai. So he says, oh, you're a Jew, I'll just kill all the Jews. Haman is a man of authority in this kingdom. The king has put him in authority. Again, poor judgment by the king. But in verse 10, I just wrote this little note. How would you like to be remembered like Haman was? It says, Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Well, that immediately puts him in the same category as Hitler, the enemy of the Jews. So you got Haman and Hitler. How would you like to be in that company? So Haman convinces the king to put out an edict to kill all the Jews. Once again, how can you have any respect for a king who just, some guy, he's, I think, third in the kingdom, but he comes to you and says, you know what, I think all the Jews need to die because they're rebellious people. And the king doesn't investigate, doesn't ask anybody. There's no evidence to it. And the king just says, yeah, okay, I'll sign that order. And it's such a strange order, and it takes everybody by surprise. And we know that because we see the reaction of the city of Susa. The people are thrown into confusion, and they're like, what is this about? Why is he doing this? And think if you lived in the city of Susa, even if you weren't a Jew, maybe you were of a different race, but this rule comes down, and there's no evidence of them being rebellious. It just comes out of nowhere that they're going to kill all the Jews. You might think, well, what was his reasoning for that? Could I be next? It's just, we see tons of poor leadership going on. And that's in chapter 3, verse 15, where it says the city is in unrest. Going to chapter 4, verse 14, I want to get back to the question of what is your purpose for being in the position that you're in? Because the story about Esther is all about her being in a position of queen all of a sudden, a position that God put her in. God paved the way for her to be there. This is part of God's plan. And you being where you are is part of God's plan. 4:14 says, for if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained this royalty for such a time as this? Mordecai is telling Esther, look, if you don't rise up and do something to stop this killing of the Jews, somebody else will, but you're gonna be responsible for their blood, the watchman on the wall. And it says, whether you have, who knows whether you have attained this royalty for such a time as this. You're in your position for such a time as this. And I have run out of time. Tomorrow, Esther 5 and 10. Until then, you guys be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.